So I guess I've kind of reached this point that feels like a point of no return, I guess. And I think this sort of represents a moment where I've decided officially to let my old self die. Because I've just realized so deeply who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing and what I love and what makes me feel alive and who I love. And my life is now, as it's always really been, it's a love story. But I think that this one is really my love story, and everything I do from this point forward is going to reflect that and honor that, and gonna be really embodied. Like, I feel really alive, and I feel like I have no other choice but to just really just do what I need to do and be exactly who I am and just be really, really happy and just make things that mean something to me and make me happy and help me move forward and reflect the kind of life I want and what I want to build. And I'm really very happy. I'm just like, you know, I finally understand love and grief as these things that just go right next to each other. And they both come together and kind of like reverberate off each other and off of both sides of me. And my energy is like electric. It's like white fire through me. And I'm really excited for whatever this is, you know. I need a place for me again. I haven't had that for many years. It got taken away from me because I was doing things like too much in the dark, and I wasn't on the right path, and so everything got all messed up. And I stopped expressing myself entirely, and that was a mistake. It wasn't the permanence. It wasn't like, that wasn't the solution. it was, but you know, the urge was just to restrict myself entirely, and I've suffered because of that. Other people suffered before, and so now the goal is, you know, purposeful suffering, which is more like just a processing. And yeah, so it's just gonna be fun. I'm just gonna vlog, and I'm just gonna document whatever I need to document. And just really, you know, just like really take care of myself, and just, you know, this is how I've loved myself for many years, is being this kind of mirror to myself and letting myself, you know, experience and put out and create whatever I needed to in order to be okay and evolve and stuff. So I'm excited, and I'm in love. I hope I'm in focus. But it's okay if I'm not, because I already started talking, and I don't want this cacao to get cold. And I know it's gonna look pretty anyway. I haven't made a YouTube video in 6 months. And a lot has been going on and happening since winter time. My demeanor, my energy is less crinkly and crunchy and jerky. And I'm happy. This has been so scary. But I'm happy. And this is what I've been working on. All these things. All these little items. I like to wrap canvas in a sheet now, and you know, so there's some sheet here, and these are wrapped, and this one up here is probably one of my favorites. It's on a wooden board. And it's funny because the last video I made on here, I think I was talking about my sketchbook, where I had glued in a piece of sheet into a sketchbook, and I was talking about how I wanted my paintings to feel like artifacts. And I had just sort of latched onto this sheet idea, or just this fabric idea. I was putting things in my sketchbook that would create this kind of thickness to it that would look like these were things you had collected over time or possibly dug up or something. And now here I am, having done a little bit of that. I also made this light. Covered with a sheet, which is kind of cool. I like how it looks. And it's created this whole vibe that I guess I want to live inside right now. So that is what I have been doing. I don't work on this all the time. I have to leave it alone for a long time. I also have some tape. It's funny, I'm into neutral tones now, and I used to be like almost anti-neutral tones when I was younger because it felt like some kind of disservice or disgrace to my soul. I was like, well, I can't be pigeonholed into this like these boring colors. Like, it felt so like abrasive and oppressive. And now I find the peace in it because I've given myself room to be myself and be eccentric and be complicated. And so now I can appreciate so much more of everything else. When we expand our inner world, it expands our outer world. I have a lot of wood. This feels important. Like it will be an important material. I actually don't like canvas. Like, I just find it boring, and this isn't really nice canvas. And so I think adding the sheets was kind of a way of like making the canvas almost not look like a canvas. Or just adding more like dimension to it. And this, I don't even know if I can or should or need to explain what the kill me is about. Oh no. But let's just pray. I have a comforter down here too. See? It's important. So I woke up this morning, first of all, I did mushrooms by myself the last 2 days. And the first day I did it, I rewrote the narrative about my parents. And I came up with a narrative that I can really live with. I just fully went all the way as deep as I could with it. Acknowledged my perspective and the pain that I went through and what I wanted from the situation, what I should have gotten from the situation, and still acknowledged who my parents are as people, that they are who they are. And even though they didn't set out to actually be like fantastic parents, I had to come to this conclusion because if they did, they would have done it. I would have played a part. I would have had a say in this gap between us wouldn't exist. That's the measure of a great parent, is whether you're willing to endlessly go through that, endless cycle of death and rebirth for your children. And they weren't willing to do that. They specifically, decided that they weren't going to do that. And so that was something I had to confront, and then also confront like who they actually are as people, which is in many ways possibly not so different to who I am, because I'm not sure that I'm gonna have kids. Like, I understand where they're coming from with that. Although it's not the decision I made, and it's not the decision I would have made. I came up with the perspective that I could live with, and I really decided I'm not going down that road anymore. This is who my parents are, and this is how I'm gonna view them and how I'm gonna view the situation, and I'm gonna live with this and move forward with this. And then the second day, yesterday, I went as deep. I rewrote these limiting beliefs around fully once and for all. It's something I've been kind of going circles about my own capabilities and how stable and confident and ready I need to be in order to take certain leaps. And I feel like I've been working through that, but I wasn't ever fully being done with it. I was still kind of stuck in the cycle of okay, I'll be ready. Okay, I'll be ready eventually. Once I'm healed, once I've done healing. And yesterday I was just no, I'm done. I was looking at these videos of actresses and just seeing the full range of emotion inside these actresses, and seeing how that's just no different than me. It's no different than, my insanity, my intensity. And they are taking this leap. They've taken this leap, and in many ways, I also took that leap years ago, and I've known that I can do anything, and I've known that, insanity is wisdom and genius, and it all goes together, and that I have a right to show up, and I have a right to be confident, and I have a right to be who I am and say what I think. But I kind of lost that, and I recoiled, and I was stuck in this place of I can do it, but I also can't. I can do it, but I need to refine myself. I'm not ready. And yesterday I just decided that I'm ready, and that I do trust myself, and I do know my lines and who I am, and that I can do anything tomorrow. I don't need to get to this point where like I can only start showing up once I'm, you know, X. And I feel both of those things have still stuck because of like how deep I went with it and how much I told myself like I'm not going, like how much I could really see like that as true, that I don't have to have anything figured out in order to do something, and like you'll never be ready and I can take any leap I want right now and, you know, just see what happens. I have no desire to really go back and to decide to tell myself that there's more I need to refine. So I feel like both of those things worked. And what's cool is they were technically a form of self-hypnosis, which is what I'm studying. So I really could like see kind of like, and I've barely just started studying. I'm like not even through like the first module, I don't think. But I have an I could grasp it, and so that gave me a kind of a cool understanding of like what's happening in the mind. When we're telling ourselves these things and rewriting these things. And I also, part of that came from the real feeling of like, man, I really like need to be done with day jobs. Like they keep me stuck in a loop that keeps me believing that I can't take a leap, because I'm telling the universe, well, I'm still at this day job. I still kind of like don't trust myself. I'm still like afraid to take leaps. I'm still like waiting until I'm ready. And so in a way, like that energy loop of staying at these day jobs that are kind of like dead end is kind of getting in the way of my manifesting. And so I think that's just what came up yesterday. And so I woke up this morning and I was supposed to have a little, and my schedule's really late, you guys, but it took me a long time to even get to this point, but I did call out of my 4-hour little shift that I was gonna go to, because yesterday it just it like really crinkled my energy. I'm also on my period, and I think that when I'm on my period, I'm just like really I'm not so able to like, it's harder to protect my energy, like I'm more permeable, I guess. So I'm glad that I called out, because I also told myself that I was gonna make YouTube videos, and that's what I'm doing. So I think the rewriting has been successful. And now I'm drinking cacao, drinking chocolate that has a little bit of matcha in here with some functional mushrooms. And I just like exist. I've been waiting to exist for so long. I feel like I had such an understanding of like just existing as a child. But then like, you know, all the stuff on the peripheries was kind of just like looming over me. But I had an understanding of like the simpleness of life. You know, of playing in nature, getting lost in the romance of movies and the fantasy of stories, and in like looking at the trees and climbing trees and making art everywhere I went. And wandering around my house and staring out the windows and sitting in different places and thinking about stuff like you have more time when you're a kid. Even if things are bad, you typically have more time to kind of ponder like how it feels when you can float around life and you don't have to work. And the more that I enter this state, the more that these memories come back to me, and I feel like that little girl again. And it feels like that time is like happening now. It feels like it's so close. And like all the positive, like magical moments from my youth that I really like were very strong through my eyes are coming back. And it feels right. It feels like when I do something, I just remember of this other beautiful time I had. And I remember why this thing I'm doing now is connected to something I did as a child. And everything feels like correct. And I like that feeling. It feels correct, and it feels like me. Because those moments really meant everything to me. They were what kept me alive when, you know, the energetics of my life were maybe not so good. Those times where I did feel very aligned and I did feel like I was doing something that I wanted to be doing and was connected with like the deepest part of my soul and what I think like life should be. I don't want to lose that stuff, you know? And I did for many years. These memories left me in my 20s. And you know, high school was actually a pretty happy time for me too. Towards the end of it, at least. And my 20s just really hit me. I had to stop floating, and when I had to stop floating, it was like all the psychosis started to catch up to me because I couldn't just coast. I had to start, you know, paying for things. And so the things aren't like looming anymore. They're like bombarding me and like attacking me. Because the people like were like reverberating off each other, like And so I spent like a decade losing this part of myself. And my 20s were interesting and valuable for other reasons, but I wasn't connected to my childhood, I don't feel like, at all during that time. Not in this way. That part, if anything, that part of my brain was turned off because I stopped being able to see anything good from my past. Because I was being confronted with everything bad that I had never confronted. And so it was a very necessary time, and I would never take it back. But it wasn't the place I was meant to be living in. And it was very unpleasant. And it made me feel very scared and crazy most of the time. And so now I'm 29, and I'm just, it's a combination of really being in a good place and having learned a lot of stuff, and like really coming back around, and and also feeling like, man, I'm gonna be 30, and I at some point just kind of have to jump off the end, like just leap, and decide like I've learned enough, I know enough, I'm strong enough, I'm confident enough, I'm smart enough, I feel I am secure enough, I'm ready enough, and I have things that I want to happen in this life that I've wanted for myself since I was very young. And even when I didn't feel like maybe I could have it or I was gonna have it, I could live inside of these realities that aligned with me so well and felt so good, and it felt like I basically had it. And I know that means that that's what I really wanted. And because that sustained me for so long and kept my dreams alive, I know that it's meant for me. I realize that now. For a number of reasons. Also because my love story is a mirror of so many other love stories that I have admired in my life. And it's brought back so many old passions and interests and inspirations, and like it's just an overwhelming amount of synchronicities happening that I feel like I know enough and have enough to know how to take a leap, is what I was gonna say. I'm not sure if that makes sense but yeah. And I'm really excited to use this as a diary. I don't plan on making any money off of these videos directly, which is why I have like music playing in the background, because I'm not gonna be able to. But I'm always listening to little tunes like this, and I think that I would like it to be playing in the background. So you know, this is just like a place for me to really remember my full self and like give myself space to kind of rebuild my little abstract world that I feel like I really like kind of lost touch with. And I think that this is going to be a more full version of that world. It's going to incorporate not only who I am now but also like sort of the simplicity and tranquility of like being a child, and just really I'm gonna create something now that's gonna encompass every part of myself. And I think that I will have this clip be the end. So this is going to be the ending of this video. And this song that's about to play is a little intense. Let's switch it. Yeah. Well, yeah. Welcome to my... I hope I do this, something like this for like the rest of my life, because this is such an important pivotal point in my life too. It feels like the beginning of so many things, because I spent so long trying to understand love and find it and find good love in my life, and just repeatedly not. And I finally am taking responsibility for, well, I've figured out who I love, and I'm starting from that place. And I'm always gonna love this person. I'm always gonna love myself. And I wanna see what I can build and create from that place. You know, once I feel like I've found the highest form of love that I possibly can, that simultaneously brings me back to myself, and that's how I know it's the highest possible love, because it aligns me with everything I've ever wanted, the timelines, the dreams that I've wanted. And so I know that building from this place is safe, and I'm going to, you know, this is a safe leap to take, because I'm taking a leap on me. You know, I'm not, and I can trust, you know, her visions, because they've been her visions for her whole life, like since she was a child. So yeah.